Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason. We're in the kitchen today, and Angela Kay's got a delicious looking, I haven't tasted them yet, but delicious looking breakfast on tap for some blueberry butter swim biscuits. It's gonna be great, so hang around, let's check it out.
If you watched my original butter swim biscuit recipe, you'll notice that something is different here. I'm not doing a cast iron skillet. These have a little bit more sugar in them. In cast iron, they would probably burn, and you do not want that. So I'm doing these. You can either do them in an 8x8 or 9x9. I'm doing them in a glass baking dish that I've lined with parchment. You'll notice that my parchment looks a little worn. If you don't know this trick, if you can't get parchment to get into a dish really evenly and it wants to puff back up, crumple it and straighten it back out, and it will always behave better if you do that. Now I have 1 stick of salted butter, and I'm going to pop this into a 425 degree preheated oven until it melts, and we will mix the batter while it melts. So now we'll get started on the mixture. In this bowl we have 2 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. We have 1/4 of a cup of sugar, 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, and 1 1/3 tablespoons of baking powder, not baking soda. Now you want to mix all that together. And now, so that our blueberries are coated in the dry mixture and won't sink, so they won't sink to the bottom of our biscuits, we are going to add in 1 heaping cup of, I'm using frozen, you can use fresh, but if you are using frozen, keep them frozen. Do not thaw them first. They will leach all through your biscuits and you will have blue biscuits. And you really don't want blue biscuits. And also you want them to stay more whole. And so you're better off using them frozen. But like I said, you can do this with fresh as well. Now to this mixture, we are going to add 1 1/3 cup of buttermilk. I use whole milk buttermilk. Now you want to make sure you get all of that out of there because you're going to want all that buttermilk. And we'll mix it up and see what it looks like. But depending on how dry your area is and how dry your house is, you may need a little bit more or you may not. Because we are in a deep freeze right now. And when you're in a deep freeze, you have extremely dry air. So, and the heat's also on a lot. Yeah. It could cause me to have to use more. And you want to keep that in mind. And basically go by the feel of it and the look of it instead of by measurements. Sometimes when learning to cook, you've got to learn to go more by the feel and the look rather than the measurements. Because right now I can tell you it is going to need a little bit more. He will probably end up taking it up to about 1.5 cups. And see, if it was a normal day, it probably wouldn't take that extra.
Or sometime in the spring instead of the winter.
It probably would not take that extra.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of the day and how much the heat is on and
just how dry the area is in general.
Just how dry the area is in general, it took that extra to take it up to about 1.5 cups. Yeah. So keep in mind, it could be anywhere from 1 1/3 to 1.5 cups. Now our batter is nicely mixed. Let's see, you're starting to see a few blue streaks, but that doesn't matter.
Now, if someone's wanting to go by the feel, feel and look at, what would you say, like a wet sticky?
Wet sticky. If you're going by the feel, you will have a wet sticky.
Yep.
If you're going by the look, it will look like this. It will look wet. Okay, as you can see, our butter is melted. I will tell you, since you are doing this in an 8x8 or a 9x9, you want to take out a little insurance policy. You want to put a baking sheet covered in foil or parchment in case the butter wants to spill over, because they do tend to want to spill over in glass dishes, where in cast iron they won't do that. So you want to put all your batter in there. Be sure and rake out all of it. You don't want to miss any of that. Now you want to push it out to all the edges because it's kind of thick, so you want to make sure you push it out. All that butter is going to bubble up over the top as you do this. But don't mix the two. You don't want the butter mixed in. You want it to mix in as it bakes. And see what I mean? You can already see that it's coming up really high on the dish.
It gets kind of towards the edges.
Where it doesn't do that in cast iron, because cast iron has a tendency to absorb things like that and help it to season the cast iron even better. Now, we are going to take a knife and we are going to cut this into 9. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it does make the butter absorb into the biscuits much better if they are cut.
Does it make it pull apart better?
It makes it pull apart better, but the big thing, it makes the butter absorb into the biscuits much better.
Okay.
Because it essentially pokes holes.
Gotcha.
Now we are going to put these back into the 425 degree preheated oven until they are nice and golden brown and done. I'll show you what they look like when they're there. These beauties are out of the oven.
Look at that.
And because it's in a glass baking dish and not in cast iron, anybody who cooks in cast iron knows cast iron cooks quick because it conducts heat really well. Because it's in a glass baking dish, it's going to bake a lot longer. Where regular butter swim biscuits in cast iron cooks about 20 to 25 minutes, this cooks about 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah. The berries in there probably loosen up the batter a little more liquid too. But.
So I'm going to make a glaze for these, but before I do that, I'm going to go along those cuts that I made so that the glaze can drip down in between.
Oh, okay. Good move.
So I'm going to reinforce those cuts.
Yeah, because you can see the outlines too.
And they're still cut. They would still fall apart if they would still break apart, but you want that glaze to be able to seep down. Okay, to make the glaze, while these are cooling just a little bit, because you only want them to cool basically while you're making the glaze. I have 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now you may or may not need all of this glaze.
You probably won't, but
no.
It's always good to have more than you need.
It's always good to have more than you need.
Yeah. And
to this, I'm going to add about 1/2 of a teaspoon, roughly measured, and then anywhere from 2 to 5 tablespoons of milk. It depends on, I will start with 2, but you never know how much you're going to need. And you can add 2, but you can never take away. And you want a fairly runny glaze. That may be a little too runny.
tell you.
So I'm going to add just a little bit more powdered sugar.
Oh, once you mix it, it's doing okay.
So you want to keep mixing until all the lumps get out, because it wants to lump on you. So if this consistency is too thin for you, which it is a tiny bit thin, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more powdered sugar. I added about 2 tablespoons or so of powdered sugar. I'd say it was about 2 tablespoons. And this should make it the consistency that I want it, because you do still want it runny. Because you don't want this to be a thick glaze, because you want it to run down into the biscuits. Okay, so now, after adding a couple more tablespoons, now it's thickened up nicely, but it's still pretty runny. That's kind of how you want it, because you want to drizzle it on your biscuits. And you just want to drizzle. Put as much as you want. If you are a big glaze person, put a lot. If you are not so much about the glaze, then just put a little. But remember, it's going to seep down in. And the more you have in there, it's going to make your biscuits very moist. The glaze is going to go really well with the butter. And also, it makes it very pretty. It makes it very pretty.
Good. It's looking good.
I'm going to put just a little bit more, and that's probably going to be enough for us.
Yep. That was plenty for us. Plenty.
Okay.
Looks good though.
Now, as soon as they cool off just a little bit more so that Jason can taste, and don't burn his pie hole, he will taste.
And look at that beautiful blueberryness right there. Looks so good. Now I'm going to taste these with a fork because they're still a little hot and I don't want to burn my hand while I'm doing it. I need to cool it off. But look at that. See, it's still steaming. This is smoking. All right, now we got cooled off a little bit. Let's taste it. Angela, okay. They're so good. Oh, it's so good. Look, y'all. Those are delicious. Beautiful, like a bright blueberry flavor. Still sweet. It's still buttery. Just a great mix of flavors. And I'm really impatient because I got some nice hot coffee over here. This is gonna go well with it. So I'm ready to go eat. You guys need to go and quit watching this video. It's over. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. My name is Jason. Smart one. Her name is Angela Kay. This is Art of Creation Homestead. Love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.